It's a privilege to introduce Darryl to our group, and he's been listening in off and on, I think, throughout the day. So he kind of knows what we're about, and we've talked some before. But when a few years ago, working with the Department of Economic Security in the training department, we have many, many trainers and facilitators throughout the organization. And I had the experience of hearing Darryl speak and participating with him in some operations training that we were doing. And it was like Darryl was head and shoulders above anybody else as far as excitement, enthusiasm, and I think knowledge too. I paid so much attention to the enthusiasm. I don't know how much I always learned. I just enjoyed it so much. So when we thought about having this conference, having somebody come and speak, and seeing the work that he's done since we worked together at the Department of Economic Security, it's a real honor to have Darryl with us, and his assistant. I think she keeps him on track. Shakira Alford is with us too, probably to time him. I don't know, but she's been very, very helpful in arranging this, and I appreciate all that she does. And so, Darryl, welcome to Choice Theory, to the Glasser Institute. It's an honor to have you, sir.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Brian, what happened to this under promise over deliver thing, man? You started me way up here now. Now I really got to be on my A+ game, buddy. Well, hey, it has been a pleasure to hang out with you guys thus far. I have been in and out, had to go offline a couple of times to answer a few emails and everything, but I have been listening in, and good information. I'm looking forward to sharing a few connecting points with everyone. I would like it. There we go. It's just a clicking sign. If everyone can like hover over their own picture, and on the right hand side of your picture, up in the upper right corner, it's going to be these little blue square with 3 dots on it. Click on that dot. Click on those, and I believe you should have the opportunity to mute yourselves. If you just hover over, you can mute yourselves. If you have any questions or anything like that, then feel free, raise your hand. We'll address them. I will be sharing a PowerPoint today, but I will guarantee you that this is true. The PowerPoint is a guide. It's not just me wanting to tell you what I want to tell you. If we need to plant our flag and talk about a few things, absolutely fine. Okay, if there's a couple of issues that we may have, or some things that you may have been dealing with some of your students, some of your clients, personal life, relationships, whatever the situation may be, concerning some of the models of behavior that we're going to be talking about, then feel free. We can go ahead and hop on a tennis court and pound that ball back and forth. But I really would love it if we could be fully engaged and really just going through what it is that we're going to talk about. All right. I would love to give you a little bit of information about myself. I don't want to spend too much time on that, though. Just a little bit of background about myself. I'm a military veteran, first Persian Gulf era. Right after that, I went back to my hometown of Detroit, Michigan. And during that time, I joined the Detroit Police Department. Now, this is what I'll tell you about Detroit. It's a very good place to be from. All right. Detroit is a phenomenal place to be from. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my city, but I just realized that after a few intense years of being in law enforcement there and dealing with some really crazy things and working undercover, I decided maybe I don't want to stay here. Your luck may run out one day. So I relocated to Arizona. And upon doing so, with that, I left Detroit Police Department. I became a detective with the Department of Corrections. Now, this is the thing, right? I had a lot of street experience, worked a lot of undercover situations, had a great time. It was absolutely phenomenal, right? But working in the Department of Corrections, when I used to do my interviews, because I was a detective there, I would interview individuals and their lives are on a whole nother level, right? Because it's kind of like, what are you going to do? Send me to prison? Kind of thing. They're there, right? So, oh yeah, I got life. Unless you're going to dig me up and put my casket in prison, then yeah, I'm not going to tell you anything. So the things that I learned on the streets of Detroit and dealing with people and their crises and people and their storytelling or their desire to hide who they really are, right? It was a completely different thing working with the Department of Corrections. And that's when I began to get into the science of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I switched my studies from criminal justice to psychology because it really began to intrigue me on just the models of behavior, the way that people think about what they think about, risk versus reward. The reasons why we do anything that we do primarily is because we're either pursuing pleasure or we're avoiding pain. And I began to apply a lot of these principles into how I interviewed individuals, how I interrogated individuals, how I looked into cases. And it gave me a phenomenal measure of success. But the bottom line is this: I really didn't like going to prison every day to go to work. I didn't like that. So every single day I go to work, I had to go to prison. And doing it day in and day out, it was a little taxing for an individual such as myself. So I ended up being recruited by the Attorney General's office in Arizona. And there I became a special agent, and I was in charge of the tobacco enforcement unit. And I dealt with a lot of different personalities. All right. I had special agents that worked under my particular supervision. Then I managed 100 people. And let me tell you something. If you want to find out how bad of a leader you are, just become a leader. And that's what I found out really quick. I knew my job very well, but I didn't know people very well. And this is when I really began my my true growth journey. Now, when I say true growth journey, my initial growth journey, I believe, was that I need to know my job. I need to know everything about what I need to know. And I need to be proficient. I need to have all of the answers. I need to be able to figure things out. I need to know all of the policies. I need to know the procedures. I need to know as much as I possibly can know about systems and procedures, but I did not focus on what I need to know about people. And that was an eye opener for me. What I found is one of the quotes from my mentor, John Maxwell, says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that became a reality for me because I doubled the effectiveness of the unit. I recruited more people into the unit. I had more overtime, a bigger overtime budget. I'm balancing budgets. I mean, the stats were through the roof, but all of my good people were leaving. And I was wondering why. I mean, I was a 32-year-old kid in charge of a state unit. And my thing was go, 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 go. And everybody around me was like, slow, 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 like slow it down. But I wasn't interested in slowing it down. I wanted to conquer the world. And I began to realize that my desire to get accomplished what I wanted to get accomplished was causing me to be a bad leader. And like I said, I began my growth journey. My growth journey wasn't about my profession. It wasn't about the procedures. It wasn't about any of that. It was about learning people. So I got a couple of mentors, read tons of books, took tons of classes, started getting certifications and everything about how to understand people and how to lead people. But deep down inside, I was still this kid that wanted to arrest the entire planet. Right. So me sitting behind a desk and dealing with all of these people was kind of taxing for me. So I ended up going to a local police department, and that's in Goodyear, Arizona. And there I became a hostage negotiator. Now, with that came a unique set of challenges because I did a lot of things for the department. I was a public information officer, defensive tactics, physical fitness. I mean, just about anything. I went from managing 100 people to a police department that had 100 people. And now here I am. I'm this hostage negotiator. And I'm constantly dealing with people who needed to make a better decision. They needed to make a better choice. And it wasn't that, we can make this choice tomorrow or let's think about this. No, I was on the phone hoping that this phone doesn't end with a loud bang. This phone call doesn't end with a, hey, let's go in and, collect the body. So it was a lot of different kinds of conversations that I had to have. And I would say easily 75 to 80% of my conversations were with people who made a decision that maybe I want to take my life today. And those were difficult conversations because obviously this person doesn't value particular things that we would have a value system. Our value systems are based on. They say, yeah. And it's yeah, I know, but I just don't want to deal with it. And yeah, I'm responsible for that. I take complete responsibility for that. And that's why I want to do what I want to do. So with that in mind, I took all of the training and all of the thoughts that I have acquired from other individuals. The FBI negotiation schools, the constant in-service trainings that we had to do, my schooling from college and the psychology discipline, and all these different things, and I come to realize that it's not how much you know about people all of the time. Sometimes it's how much you know about you. And I'll tell you what, one of the biggest, most important things you can do when it comes to connecting with other people is having a deep, knowledgeable connection with yourself. Now, when I realized how connected I was with me, when I gonna say realized, when I began to have a higher level of connection with myself, it became extremely easy to connect with other people. I found it not as difficult. Okay, so with that in mind, I want to begin to share my screen with you guys and talk about how is it that we can connect the dots. And when I say connect the dots, I'm really going to focus on some particulars that's going to allow us, to address a few different things here. All right, you guys still see me on there? If you do, just give me a thumbs up. Good. You see me and the screen or no? All right, because I got a double screen here and I only see part of it. So please forgive me in that particular arena. All right. So let's talk about connecting the dots. All right. The first thing I want to know is what dots are in play. When I say connect the dots, we always say, oh, I got to connect the dots. Or we'll say things like, how many people have heard this terminology? Hey, I got to get all of my ducks in a row. Right. So when we say, hey, I got to get all of my ducks in a row, sometimes you got to realize, where are my ducks? What do my ducks look like? You can say I'm getting my ducks in a row, but sometimes those aren't our ducks. So when I say we got to connect the dots, I'm asking you, what actual dots are we connecting? If I want to help someone make a better decision, if I want to assist someone and really coming into their own and recognizing what's good for them, what's bad for them, what are they indifferent about, I need to find out what dots do I need to connect in order to make that happen. So one of the dots that we always want to consider is the sum total of that person. And I've heard you guys speak about this, and I've researched your 10 axioms and understanding particular things that we all are the sum total of our experiences, our education, our family, our role models. Some things are genetic, but we're the sum total, right? So one of the dots that I need to connect is I have to understand that I'm generally dealing with the sum total of the complete person. I believe it was Henry Ford who says, why is it that when I want to hire a pair of hands, I end up with the entire person? Right. So he wanted to deal with people from a certain perspective. I just want to deal with this person. I want them to grab this door, put it up here, zip, zip, and move it on. I want to deal with them with the confines in which I want to deal with them. But he's saying, I want to deal with them this way, but I get so much more. So I realize that whenever I'm talking with a person and they're dealing with a crisis, or they're asking for advice, or there may be a client, right? When I'm dealing with them, I realize that they are so much more than the situation that they're talking to me about. Right? I'm dealing with the sum total of that person. They may be struggling with this decision. They may be struggling with this addiction. They may be struggling with this level of depression or this level of anxiety. But I understand that I'm not just talking to that particular thing. I'm not just talking to that anxiety, that depression, that desire to harm themselves or harm others, whatever that situation may be. I'm not just speaking to that. I'm speaking to the sum total of that person. This is one thing I have to constantly be mindful of. The second dot is, where are they? And I don't mean from a geographical sense, but where are they? Like, where do they see themselves in relation to where they actually are, or where do they want to be? I hear people say, oh, well, I should have been here by now, or I should be doing this by now. But in reality, Wherever you are is exactly where you're supposed to be, because every single thing you've done in life have led you to where you are. It's like me going outside, starting my car up, driving down the street, putting it in park, and then sitting there for an hour, and then complaining, saying, oh man, I should have been 60 miles down the road by now. No, you should have been right where you are, because that's where you hit park at. And sometimes people have a different idea of where they actually are, as opposed to when they say, hey, well, this is where I should be. No, you should be there. And I need you to recognize that the sum total of your person is exactly where it needs to be. Okay. And then the third thing is, how long have they been there and how much time do you have to get them out? Okay. So this is a major thing here, because I'm looking at this like, okay, how long has this person been there? Because understand that the longer a person has been to us in a certain area, is going to be two things that happen. They're going to get very comfortable with being there, or they're going to be very agitated with being there. Okay, you know, it's almost like having that pebble in your shoe. You know, as soon as you feel it, you end up taking a couple more steps. You know, and then you realize, oh, I want this out. You know, the question is, are they on the first step or are they on the fifth step? And when we're considering that, when we're dealing with that, this is something that we definitely and definitively need to be able to connect when it comes to what is their level of urgency when it comes to the situation. Because let me tell you what, they used to tell me this in sales, and I teach this in sales all the time. Sometimes the people's urgency or individual's urgency has to deal with how long they've had the toothache. Now, if you're familiar with the toothache principle, understand that when you have a toothache, initially you mess with it a little bit, you pick at it, you might take some Tylenol, or you might put some Ambisol on it. But over the course of time, the toothache gets worse and worse and worse, and you're up at 3 a.m. and you're looking for an emergency dentist. And you say, I need to take this out of my head right now. Right. And they'll say, well, this is what it's going. I care less what the copay may be, how much I have to pay. I can no longer deal with this. Right. So it really has a lot to do with most of the time, how long have they been there, and what is their level of urgency when it comes to the decision making that is in place. All right. So what I want to talk about is patterns, but what ends up happening with us is that we see patterns in front of us all of the time, but at times we don't recognize them. So I want you guys to be a little active in the chat right now. If you look at the photograph to the left, right? If you can just put it in the chat, what do you think that is? What animal? What pattern is that you see over there? What do we see? Let's see what we got in the chat here.
My screen seems to be stuck on the connecting the dots.
Is everyone else still on connecting the dots?
Darryl, share full screen with us and then scroll down, because you're on your own screenshot now.
Oh,
Go
really?
to full screen.
Let's see here.
And now do slideshow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Let's see.
Try the one to the right where your cursor is. Try that one.
No.
That's not it, huh?
No, I don't know what.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know this program.
He's on presenter view. He's on presenter view.
How about that?
Yeah, hide that.
You guys are on me. You with me now?
There you go.
Yep.
There you are.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for sharing that information with me, because I would have been in the dark. Okay, how do I get these subtitles to pop off though? Unless you guys don't mind it. All right. So where are we? Okay, so do you guys see the patterns? You guys can see them now?
Yep.
Outstanding. So all the way to the left, you can pop it in the chat. What animal you think that is?
Tiger.
Outstanding. Look at that. All right. What about the middle one?
Zebra.
Zebra? We thinking zebra?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about the upper right?
Giraffe.
Camel. Giraffe.
Giraffe. You got some say giraffe, some say camel. All right. Okay, so what about the lower right? What are we seeing?
Looks like a Dalmatian dog.
Dalmatian.
Looks like a Dalmatian. Outstanding. All right, so let's see. Uh-oh. All right. Something happened here that I don't want to happen. I think we're stuck again.
What if you clicked ESC to see if you can get out of it?
All right, let's go back. New share. No, I don't want a new share. Apps more video participants. Your screen is now sharing. How about we start that over, huh? Let's go to stop sharing and then let's reshare it. All right. So everybody got their guesses in. So let's see here. Everybody got the guesses in. And let's go to share. All right. How are we now? We good? There we go. All right. So you guys were right. Tiger, zebra, Dalmatian, and a giraffe. All right. So the bottom line is this. You can see a little small part of something and recognize a pattern. Okay. And this is what I think we do in human behavior and we dealing with people. We'll see a small thing, but that small thing, it really reveals a bigger picture. And you don't have to watch someone for months and years to recognize a pattern. If you are familiar with a particular thing and you recognize a pattern, you're able to actually speak on that particular pattern. You generally can say, hey, it's one of these two things. Right? I remember when I first saw the Dalmatian, I like, it could be a cow. Who knows? Right? The giraffe, or maybe that's a camel. I don't know. Right? But when we see particular patterns, we recognize them as they are, and it kind of gives us the nature of a thing. Now, based on these particular patterns, it's a couple of these animals that I probably wouldn't mind being up close and personal with, but I know there's definitively one that I'm like, nah, I think I would probably want to go ahead and have some distance from that one. Okay, so with understanding that, I think that we apply this to people. Okay, so let's talk about some patterns with individuals that's going to allow us to connect with people a little bit better, to where when we want to go ahead and talk to them, we want to, because this is the thing. I can have a lot of information. I can know all of the philosophies and theories and everything like that. But if I cannot connect with other people, I can't influence them. And the bottom line is that, you generally are leading people into a different form of decision making. And in order to lead anyone, you have to influence them. So let's talk about a couple of different patterns that we have, right? So everyone sees the elevator, right, on your screen. So let's just say that we're walking in the elevator, right? And you're just a fly on the wall. You're not even you're in the elevator, but you're in the elevator as almost like an invisible observer, right? Let's just say you literally are that fly on the wall. Okay. And as that fly on the wall, you're looking and you're saying, hey, I'm going to check out what's going on in here. And the first person that enters in and they're talking, you hear them. The first person enters in, they're in the elevator by themselves. They stand in the corner of the elevator and they begin to say out loud, oh my God, I really hope that no one else enters into this elevator. Their whole time is, I don't want anyone to enter in here. I want to be by myself. I don't want to deal with another human being today.
That's why
Right?
the close the door button is always the most.
Yeah, they're hitting the close. They can see someone walking like, I want to hit it. I do not want to wait for another person to come in here, right? And they're saying like, hey, it's two elevators. They can get on their way up. They can get on the other one on the way up, right? They never hold that button open, okay? And then you get the person who comes in And they immediately want to talk to everyone in there. Hey, how you doing? What's going on, buddy? Oh, I see you got on your Hawaiian shirt. Are you from Hawaii? Are you coming here to visit? Oh, yeah, well, I've been here. They have a really nice pool here, and the weight room is phenomenal. And they are just a chatterbox. They want to talk to any and everyone inside of the elevator. But the person who didn't want to talk to anyone, they're just smiling, and they're giving one-word answers and everything like that. And then you get the person who comes in. And when they come in, they immediately go right towards the buttons. Right? They want to go. And then when everyone else comes in, what do? They say, what floor are you going to? Where you going? Where you going? So they're the one that's hitting all of the buttons here. Right? They don't want anyone messing with those buttons except for themselves. Right? So they want to control the buttons, because bottom line is that who wants to sit up there and sit there and have the kid come and go brrr, and now you got to stop at every floor. You feel like your time is being wasted, and you don't want to have to deal with that. Right? And then you get that last person. That last person comes on. And they're quiet. They seem very purposeful. The first thing they do is they look up, and they have that little plate that's on the elevator, and it tells you the maximum amount of people and the maximum weight. And that person is counting people and summing up everyone's weight to ensure that we are not over the weight and everything like that, right? So they're looking, they're counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then they're looking, okay, 150, 200. And they're adding up in their head to make sure that we're going to be safe. These 4 type of people exist, and their patterns are very definitive. You see them all the time in elevators. You see them in traffic. You see them in your workplaces. You see them in grocery stores. These 4 type of people manifest the way that they manifest their behaviors in a specific way. Just like when you see the patterns on the animals, you see patterns in people. And in order to connect with people, you have to recognize their pattern, because if my pattern is completely different from yours, and you know what, you're that person that wants to stand by the buttons and hit the buttons, and I might be that kind of person that wants to talk to everyone, and you're just like, hey, what floor are you going on? And I want to hit it myself. No, wait, I'll hit it for you, kind of thing. The bottom line is, I'll recognize the pattern, and I make the adjustment. See, this is what leading people into decisions are about, because when you're leading anyone into anything, it's not that they adjust to you, you adjust to them. This is what definitive leadership is. I adjust to you because it is my job to take you from one place to another. I am the bridge to a great decision. Now look, if you're on one side and I'm on the other, it would be ill-advised for me to say, hey, just come on over. I have to go and meet you where you are, and we build the bridge together, and we cross together. But if I am uncertain about where you are, if I do not find out exactly what's going on with you, if I am just blindly just saying, hey, just make this happen or do this or do that, and for some reason they're finding extreme difficulty, then what ends up happening is that I basically connect with people who are similar to myself, because I don't have to exert any effort in doing so. Because it's easy to connect with people who have the same model of behavior that I have. It's more difficult to connect with individuals who are a different part of that elevator crowd, because you see them all of the time. All right. So let's go further into this, right? What shapes our personality? Now, there's many books about personality types and everything like that, but I'm going to be going off William Morrison and Carl Jung's work. Okay, now Carl Jung, he began it out. William Morrison actually began to narrow it down into 4 particular models of behavior. And basically, when he comes into these particular models of behavior, there's 3 components that shape our decision making. It's 3 components that shape the way that we behave. All right. Some of it is hereditary. It's DNA. It's, we get certain things, our brain composition and everything like that. We get certain things. It's hereditary. And I'm not saying that's a major part, but it's definitely a part. Second is our environment. What was your education like? Where did you grow up at? What was your home life like? Right. So when I look at that, I would generally ask the question of this, and this is how we, gauge how we make decisions. As a child, when I wanted to succeed, or I felt the need to survive, I had to. And you fill in that blank. And you'll find that you have a pattern. That pattern was built early on in life. As a child, in order to succeed or in order to survive, I had to. Now, me as a child, in order to succeed or survive, I felt like I had to be liked. I had to be pleasurable. I had to be someone that's pleasant to be around, because my childhood wasn't all that great, and I wanted people to want me around. So that began to form a lot of the decision making and the thought processes I had as a young adult. Because as a young adult, I wanted everyone to like me. Why? Because as a child, in order to succeed, I felt like everybody had to like me. In order to survive, I felt like everyone had to like me. So as a young adult, in order to get what I wanted, or to feel accepted, or to be around people that I felt I wanted to be around, I felt like they had to like me. So guess what? As a young adult, I was an extreme people pleaser. I wanted to please everyone, which caused me to not really find out who I was until later on in life, because I began to truly adjust to what other people had going on. I had to adjust to other people's potential opinion. I had to adjust to what they liked, not what I liked, to who they were and not who I was. And it wasn't an adjustment so to get them to make a better decision. This was an adjustment so that I can simply be around them, so that I can feel like I'm not being rejected. Right. And you get certain people who deal with those kind of situations to us. Their decisions are all based around not being rejected. And you say, OK, well, why is that? And for them, sometimes it's not that simple to come out of that loop. And then thirdly, part of what shapes our personalities are role models. Who did you look up to? Who do you say, I want to be just like that person? This person models the type of behavior that I want. Now, let me tell you what my situation was, right? I had a very rough childhood. I had a dysfunctional home. And in my dysfunctional home, I never saw what I wanted. I just saw what I didn't want. And let me tell you what I know to be a fact. If you study to not be bad, that will never make you good. The only thing you'll be is not bad, and not bad doesn't equal good. So just imagine you go into a restaurant and you're walking in and it's a great steakhouse. It looks great. The ambiance is awesome. And there's a couple walking out and you're walking in. You say, how was it? And they look at you and say, it's not bad. No one gets excited about not bad, right? So as a young child, I'm seeing what I don't want. I'm seeing bad and I say, I don't want to be bad. So as a young adult, I was living my life just above not bad. So guess what my decisions were? They weren't horrible, but they weren't bad. They definitely weren't great, because as I said before, being slightly above bad will never make you great. And it's a great deal of our population that is okay with not bad. I know in law enforcement, whenever there was, I'm retired law enforcement. I retired in 2014. And law enforcement, whenever there was a major situation, we would study the situation and talk about all of the things that they did wrong and say, we're not going to do that. And I began to realize that, wow, we're just studying to not be bad. And I get it. If you're going to get knocked out by the punch you don't see. Don't fall into the same pitfalls and run into the same brick walls that you've seen others run into. I completely 100% get that. But one thing I will tell you is that success definitely does leave clues. And if we're focused on just not being bad and we're really not focused on how do I be great? How do I connect on a super high extreme level? Then we'll be average. And no one gets excited about average. I've never gone to a movie, a restaurant or whatever and said it was average and felt like I had to tell everyone, like, oh my God, this was the best. Oh my God, this meal was so average. I feel like I have to tell everyone about it. It was just extremely average. I have to call all of my friends. I have to send all the text messages. I have to put a blog up on how average this was, because man, this average meal, this average movie, this average whatever just made my day. That never happens. No one gets excited about average. And this is why a lot of people aren't excited about their lives. And if you're not excited about your life, then you're probably not going to be excited about being great at making decisions. Why should I get excited about making great decisions when my life isn't great? It's just average. And at times we're okay with that. All right. So Let's talk about 4 models of behavior. All right. And within these particular models of behavior, I want to share a couple of things with you. And as I said before, if we feel like we need to stop and talk about it, then hey, let's stop and talk about it. All right. So the first one is a driver, right? This person is driven by authority. They will easily try to take control. They have no problem with taking control. They have no problem with being in charge. They embrace any kind of change that's going to help them get results. Why? Because they're results-oriented people, right? They're very comfortable with responding to confrontation, and they like loyalty. And when the bottom line is that the reason why they like loyalty is because they like results. They don't like to, they like to know what they're going to get out of a situation. Okay, so imagine that you're talking with this kind of person, right? And you're trying to help them make a better decision. You're trying to connect with them, and for some reason they like to overpower and dominate the conversation. And you think like, oh, they're just really passionate about this. No, this is their nature. This is who they are. And you'll think, or you'll misinterpret them being extremely passionate about something as opposed to them just really wanting to be in control, right? So one of their biggest fears, the driver, that individual who likes to be in control, that individual who wants to stand by the buttons in the elevator and they want to hit it, they have a fear of being taken advantage of. Right. So when you have a fear of wanting to be taken advantage of, you're slower to open up. Have you ever had that kind of individual that you're talking to them, but for some reason they're holding back? They're not really expressing what you know. There is something more to the situation. It's something more to the problem that they say that they have. But for some reason, they do not want to divulge all the information. They do not want to open up to you. Oh, they have a fear of being taken advantage of. If I tell you all of these things, then. Right. This is the person when they go to the car dealership, they're going to say, but what's the sticker price? And what's this? And what's that? And they go through all of that stuff because they don't want to be taken advantage of. And sometimes they don't know what help looks like. So you're showing up as this beacon of light, that this individual that wants to help a person, but for some reason they refuse to open up, because if I open up to you, I lose a measure of control. And when I lose that measure of control, I can now be taken advantage of. Because where they say knowledge is power. And if I tell you everything about me, then I'm an open book. And I don't want to be an open book to everyone. Can you solve my problem without me telling you all of that? It's like the person who puts something on their social media. Hey, pray for me. Don't ask me any questions, but pray for me. Right? Hey, my family's going through a rough time. Pray for me. Don't ask any questions. Okay, you're seeking. We call it. I've heard this term. My kids told me they call it spatention. I said, what is spatention? You want space, but you want attention at the same time, right? I want the attention, but I want some space at the same time. And so therefore they get a certain measure of control with this. They're multitaskers. They like to have a lot of things going on all at the same time. Now, here's some of the qualities that they have. All right. They excel in emergencies. Why? Because they're okay with conflict. They have no problem with direct conflict. They'll tell you exactly what they think. All right. They're motivated. They motivate others into action. Their goal, like I said, they're results oriented. They're comfortable with leading. They thrive on resistance. These are the kind of people that they have no problem with telling you what they think. All right. A couple of others that they're confident, decisive. They're very productive. And the reason why they're productive is because they're results oriented. Strong will, independent. They're positive. They're persistent. They at times just won't give up. All right, they're going to keep pressing and pressing and pressing and pressing. Now, the thing is this, when they're on the wrong path, all of these things apply. They're productive in doing the wrong thing. They're strong-willed about doing the wrong thing. They're very independent about doing the wrong thing. They're persistent. They're confident. They're very decisive in doing the wrong thing and or making decisions that aren't so great for them. Right. So when you're trying to get that individual to actually make a better decision, understand that you're going to run into these roadblocks. And it doesn't mean that it takes away from you as a counselor, as an individual that's going to do their best to help someone come into a better level of decision making. Sometimes you have to realize that hereditary, their environment and their role models have produced these particular things. And the system works. It's just that, this is what I know. If I have an apple tree, an orange tree, a strawberry patch, a grape vineyard, coconut grove, all these different kind of things, if I treat all of them the same, some of them will die. That's a fact, right? And just like different trees need different things and different types of care. So do different types of people, right? The system is water and sunlight. The question is, how much of it do I give? Right? So, one thing I know is that the seed doesn't have the ability to ignore the soil. So if I create the correct environment, the seed will blossom, it will bloom, it will take root, and it will mature. But I think that sometimes we provide the exact same kind of soil to every type of seed, and some seeds will grow and others will not. But we as individuals of change, as agents of change in the lives of other individuals, realize that we are the creators of particular types of environments when it comes to the way that individuals think. So sometimes I have to create a different type of environment in order for people to make a different type of decision. Because if the seed of a good decision is there, I just got to put it in the right environment. And that's the key of recognizing what kind of seed do I have and what kind of environment do I need to produce to allow that seed to grow. Because I know this for a fact, the seed does not have the ability to ignore the soil. It can't. You put the apple tree in the correct environment and dare it not to grow. It's going to grow. Okay? A couple other things, right? That you may deal with when you're dealing with the driver type of personality. They're driven. They can be argumentative. They can be kind of inconsiderate, very opinionated. All right. Sometimes they're very insensitive. When I say insensitive, I don't mean like, well, maybe I do mean that way. They're really not concerned about how you feel about what they say. Okay, they could be domineering, unforgiving. They can actually appear cold, have a tendency to not apologize about things. So when you're in that counseling session, when you're trying to make these decisions and help them run through certain things, and when you ask them, well, how does that make you feel? And they're like, well, what have feelings got to do with anything? Either I'm gonna get it done or I'm not. But that feeling is important. Remember what I said, sometimes you want a pair of hands, but you get the whole person. There's always an underlining thing. Feelings are human. And they may seem insensitive about it. That's just an outer shell. Okay, so it might be a little bit hard to get past that initial shield that they're holding up, but understand that this is part of who they are. Right? So understand if this individual is producing that thing, you say, okay, well, maybe this person thinks I'm trying to take advantage of them. Or they just feel that this is just not good for me, or, why am I even doing this anyway? Well, this is my family wanted me involved in this. I didn't even want to go through this process, right? Maybe I don't need this. Okay. And when you're dealing with those domineering or opinionated type of individuals, understand that their major fear is being taken advantage of. And at that point, it's okay. Well, what would you like to talk about? So I remember I had a case as a detective. In the Department of Corrections, and it was a violent crime, and I would bring individuals in as a detective, and I would talk to them. But I had a rule. I had a 20-minute rule. If you come into my office, you're going to stay for 20 minutes. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. But what ends up happening is that if I bring one person in and you say in 2 minutes, I got nothing to say, let me out, and I let you out. And then I bring the other person in and they have a lot to say and they stay for 20 minutes. When that person goes back out, you guys are going to seriously have a not so great conversation with this person. They're going to be in trouble. Right. So as far as I'm concerned, everyone sits in here for 20 minutes. Right. And what I began to do in that 20 minutes is I began to give them a certain measure of control. When they say, I got nothing to say, I'm like, great, I have work to do. So I'm going to go ahead and start typing on this report, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. If you don't want, and I'll just turn over and I'm just typing and I'm doing my report. And they're like, so you're not going to let me go? Well, no, I mean, if I let you go, there'd be a problem. There'd be a problem for somebody else and everything like that. So we're not going to do that. You get to 20 minutes, man. You get to sit in the air conditioned, office, a nice, comfortable seat, and just relax. And over the course of time of just doing that over and over again, they begin to tell me any and everything I wanted to know simply because they felt I wasn't trying to take advantage of them. They had that driven, everyone's trying to take advantage of me, appearing to be cold, very opinionated kind of personality type, because that's what you have to have in there at times to survive. But when I provided them with a certain measure of control and saying, hey, I'm not trying to take advantage of you. I have something to do. I have a job to do, and either you're going to talk to me or not, and if you don't, that's okay. We don't have to talk. We can talk about whatever you want. We talk about sports. We talk about restaurants and everything. Before you know, it's like, okay, Rivers, this is the deal. This is what happened. This is who's doing what. This is who is in charge of this area and that area. And I got a lot of information that way simply by not trying to force it, and simply by letting them know that I am not trying to take advantage of you, that I'm not going to abuse the information that you're providing to me. All right. Now that you put that on a personal level, sometimes people don't want to tell you anything because they feel like they're going to be judged by it. Well, this is what I really think, but I don't. Maybe you're going to take advantage of that. OK. Then you have your influencer. Right now, when it comes to the influencers, they're relationship oriented. They're emotional, and they can be very animated. So they're great storytellers. They're encouragers. They treasure great experiences with other people. Right now, let me tell you what their greatest fear is: rejection and loss of approval, or social rejection. So remember, I told you as a child, I felt like I had to be liked in order to succeed or survive. And this shaped this particular personality type in me. All right. My greatest fear was rejection. I never wanted to be rejected. I never wanted to have a sense of just not being approved of. And this is younger, but when I developed a certain level of emotional intelligence and realized that this is who I am, this is, a situation I need to deal with because it affects my decision making. It causes me to make decisions that are outside of my core values. Because I could be well within my core values, but if someone else is behaving or desiring something else, in order for me to not be rejected by them, I operate outside of my core values. Right? So sometimes when people are, what's that?
Sorry.
Oh, no. So sometimes when people are operating outside of their core values, it's not because it's something that they want to do. It's just that they're avoiding rejection. Right. And I found myself in that situation quite a bit. Right. So let's talk about some of these things that actually come with this. All right. They're very social, spontaneous. They love to inspire others. They're very charming. And this is the thing about these type of individuals. Their number one emotion is optimism. Right. So they always seem like they're upbeat and optimistic. But let me tell you something. That seeming upbeat and optimistic all of the time, it's not true. Right. So at times they can really be down. They can really be. But that's how their persona. They're likable. They're charming. They're great mixers. And they're coming to you very optimistic. But inside they're dealing with it's like they got squirrels inside of a pillowcase going on inside of their head. But they might not want to share that with you. Why? Because if I share that with you, then you're probably going to judge me. And if I feel judged by you, you might reject me. And I don't want that. So I got to put on this optimism in front of you to make it seem like everything is okay. And when you say, well, what's your major problem today? How are you dealing with this? And they're like, oh, I'm just going through it. I'll get through it. But in their mind, they're like, I have no idea how I'm going to get through this. I have no idea what's next. I have no idea how I'm going to come out on the other side of this situation. I am completely 100% lost, but I don't want to tell you that I'm lost because you might reject me. You might think differently of me. So as you're going through your process and everything like that, and you realizing that, wow, does this person really need my help? Yes, they need your help. They need you to lead them from one spot to the other, but they don't want to be judged by you. So sometimes you have to make the space safe for them to not feel as though they're going to be rejected. Right? So I'm connecting the dots. I'm like, okay, well, this is who you are. This is the sum total of who this person is. Right? And how long have you been in that situation? Are you comfortable with being this type of person that puts on this front, that puts on this facade like everything is okay, but they keep making decisions that indicate otherwise? And you're saying, okay, well, what's wrong with this individual? Why do they keep making these self-sabotaging type of decisions? It's because you're getting the whole person. The way that this manifests just shows up in a couple of different areas of their life. This problem that you're trying to deal with, this decision-making thing where you feel like they just making some really bad decisions or whatever the situation may be. But They're always optimistic. They're inspiring other people. They're extremely charming, but they're making bad decisions. How is that? That's who they are as a behavior model. That's their particular model of behavior. All right. Now let's talk about some of the things. And I know this very well because this is, part of my thing. Right. So some of their obstacles is that they love to be in the spotlight. Right. Even when they're dealing with troubling times, they love to be in the spotlight. They're very forgetful. They don't listen very well. They're situational listeners. They don't follow through. I know my follow through is not good. I'm so aware of my obstacles. Let me tell you something. One of the best obstacles to have is the one that you know about. Okay. So yeah, because everyone has them. Everyone, look, this is what I know. One of the best obstacles you have is the one that you know about. And the best obstacle to have is the one that you know about. And the worst excuse you have is a good one, because you actually believe it. The worst excuse you could ever have is that one. All right. It's the one that you actually believe. It's a good excuse. Those are the worst ones to have. OK, so I waste time from time to time. Talk too much, overcommits. Oh, I can do it. I can do this. I can do that. I can do that. Right. In this particular model of behavior, impulsive, undisciplined about certain things, undependable. And look, these are decisions that you're thinking that they're making these decisions because they're bad decision makers, but this is part of who they are. And let me tell you another thing about this personality type. We're very trusting, like indiscriminately trust people. Okay, so let me tell you about, sir. I remember I was a rookie with the Detroit Police Department, and they generally do not allow you to work by yourself too often because Detroit's a violent city, right? But this day I was working by myself. And when you're working by yourself, you just ride around, you just take reports because they don't really want you to encounter anything that can cause you problems. But I'm driving down the street. This is like 1999. I'm driving down the street, and I know he's like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of old, I guess, 1999. I'm driving down the street, and I see this car, and it doesn't have a license plate on it. And I'm thinking like, oh, well, this is typical. It's Detroit, but let me pull the car over. So I turn my license sirens on, and the car pulls over. And as I pull them over, I'm thinking like, well, maybe it's a stolen car. It's a Dodge Intrepid. Like, I think that those cars, the Dodge Intrepid, they came with a screwdriver on the side, because I tell you what, those cars used to get stolen all of the time. They must have been super easy to steal, right? So here I am, I'm walking up to the car, and when I get to the front of the car, and the individual's inside, he was an older guy. Like, now I don't mean older like, I was in my 20s. I was like 22, 23 years old. I don't mean older like older than me. Like, he was considered old, right? He was an old guy. He had on his little Elmer Fudd hat. And this is how you know when you're dealing with a really, really old person, by the way that they talk to you. So I get up to the car. I'm like, how you doing today, sir? He looks at me, hey, how's it going, young fella? How's it going, young buck? I said, oh, he old. He calling me young fella, young buck, and all this stuff. It's a beautiful day outside today, young fella. I'm like, sure it is, sir. Do you know you don't have a license plate on your car? And he's beating his steering wheel. These young kids keep stealing my license plate. Y'all need to catch these young folks now. They keep stealing my license plate. This is the fourth time they done stole my license plate. I'm like, I'm sorry to hear that, sir. Do you happen to remember your license plate number? Oh, no, when you get old, that memory don't get so great. And, I'm just out here trying to enjoy this beautiful day, young fella. Now, I don't remember that license plate number. I'm like, no problem, sir. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the front of your car. You have a VIN number, vehicle identification number. It's a 17-digit number. It's going to take me a while to copy it. I'm going to go enter it into my computer, and then I'm going to get your license plate number, and I'll create a stolen license plate report for you. You're like, oh, thank you very much, young fella. You're doing a good job out here today. And I'm like, yes, sir. Thank you very much. I go to the back of my car. I go to my car. Oh, mind you, I'm working by myself. Open the car door. I get in my computer, and as I'm plugging the stuff in and everything like that, all I hear is skirt. And I look up, and that old dude took off on me. I'm like, where did he go? He had to go take an old man pee. Like, what's going on? He got to change his depends. Like, he was old, y'all. He was old. And I'm sitting there like, what's going on? Like, why did he take off on me, right? And then it happens. Boop, 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 boop. Stolen motor vehicle. No way. Right? It's no way that, number one, there's no way that this old guy just took off on me and tricked me. But second, why is he out here stealing cars? You know, so I'm tripping out. Why? Because this is what happens. My personality type, I have a desire to trust people. And what do I normally do? How can I get your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance? Whose vehicle is this? Where are you going? I didn't ask any of those things. Why? Because I wanted to trust him. And man, he took off, and the only thing I'm thinking is like, man, I am going to hear it when I get back to the police station. Those cops are going to blast me. They're going to talk about me so bad, saying how you got tricked by an old guy. If you can't catch an old guy, you definitely ain't catching a 20 and 30-year-olds that want to run from you, right? So guess what I didn't want to do? I didn't want to hear that. Why? Because I didn't want to be rejected. So what did I do? I made a lot of bad decisions that day. I hop in my car. I don't say anything on the radio. And I immediately start driving down neighborhoods fast as I can, trying to find this person. Now, listen, I'm making some very, very bad decisions because of my personality style. Number one, I trusted someone I shouldn't have trusted. Number two, I didn't want to be rejected. So here I am. Number one mistake, I didn't ask him for an identification card. My personality type wants to trust people. Number two, I don't want to be rejected. So now I'm driving down like 25-mile-an-hour zones at like 50, 60 miles an hour trying to find this car. And ultimately, I find the guy, right? He's way down the street and it's a big cloud of dust. So guess what? It's safe for me to get on the radio now, right? Because the policy was if you don't see the car, you don't have a chase. Well, I had to see the car. Right, so I call it out, 941 priority. What's your priority, 941? I'm in pursuit of a stolen motor vehicle, a red Dodge Intrepid, driving northbound up Houston Whittier Street. And I'm calling this all out, and they're like, oh, you about a mile away from where you pulled the car over at. What you doing? And everything. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be a black male wearing a brown shirt, approximately 75 to 80 years old. And I know everybody on the radio is like, this guy's chasing an 80-year-old dude in a car chase. Right. And I finally catch up to the guy. And when I catch up to him, he gets out of the car, looks at me and says, almost got you, young fella, and turns around, put his hands behind his back. I'm like, no way. This is not happening. Right. So I'm thinking like, OK, something's really wrong right now. I handcuff him, put him in the back of the car. I'm like, dude, granddad, what are you doing? And he looked like, gotta pay the bills, young buck. I'm like, oh, my God. Right? You can't imagine anything like this, right? Now, let me tell you something. I made some bad decisions because based on my personality type. It's not that I didn't know my job. It's not that I didn't understand protocols, procedures, or anything like that. My personality type got the best of me that day, which caused me to make not so great decisions. Guess what? Individual's personality type gets in their way sometimes. It causes them to make not so great decisions. But let me tell you what I really know for a fact. Guess what? You have a personality type at times too. And sometimes you trust people a little bit too much. Sometimes you might feel the fear of being rejected. Sometimes you might feel as though someone's trying to take advantage of you. They're wasting your time. And why am I talking to this person? They don't want to change anyway. And sometimes we have to deal with those kind of things. And this is what I know 100% is that the more you know you and your personality style, the easier it is for you to adjust your personality style and connect with the person that you are dealing with. All right. Right on. Third, personality style. It's a systematic. So number one, the first one is a driver. The second one is an influencer. The third one that we're dealing with is systematic, right? So you're dealing with a systematic individual, right? Their fear is loss of security. They do not want confrontation. They want everything to be predictable. They're easygoing. They're evenly paced. They're good listeners. They're compassionate. All of these different kind of things. Now, let me tell you something about good listeners, right? Because we all think that we're good listeners. Humans aren't. Most humans are horrible listeners, right? So let me tell you why, right? So let's see. Who can I talk to right now? Let's see. Ron, you want to do me a favor and come off mute? Can you hear me? Or say something, Ron. Let me see if I can hear you. All right, go up and hover your mouse over and then hit unmute over your picture.
Thank you.
There you go. Hey, Ron, quick question. What kind of car you drive, bro?
I drive a Chevy Sonic 2018, electric blue. Her name is Sadie, like blue suede shoes, but Sadie.
Nice. Let me ask you, you say an electric, what's the name of it?
Electric blue car, and I named her Sadie. So.
Nice. Now, let me ask you this. When you got your Mercedes, did you start to see more of them on the road?
It's not a Mercedes.
What is it?
It's a Chevy Sonic.
Oh, a Chevy Sonic. Okay, so let me ask you this. When you got your Chevy, did you start to see more of them on the road? Right? Now, Ron, I know you're a special guy. You seem like you're pretty cool, but you know they started making those before you got yours, right? Right? So, but when you got it, you start to see more of them, correct? And this is something that our brains do. It's called reticular scanning, right? So when I have something, I begin to recognize more of it. Right? I begin to see them everywhere, right? This is what we do when we're listening to other people, right? So understand, like, hey, you know what? I drive a particular type of car, and I notice it every single time I go somewhere. I see my car on the road, and I'm sure that just about all of us probably have this thought process that, you know what? I see my car everywhere I go now. I used to see them before, but man, I really see them since I have one. This is what we do when we say we're listening. I'm really not listening to hear what you got to say. I'm listening, trying to find myself in your conversation. And this is why we interrupt one another when we're talking to one another. So I can sit here and talk and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be heading to Colorado next week. Somebody say, hey, I got a sister in Colorado. And they begin to tell me all about their sister in Colorado, but forget what I had to say, right? Now, I was really talking about something. You just interrupted me, right? Now, this is the thing, right? We all do this. And it sometimes we think that we're connecting with someone. Yeah, you might have some similarities, but are you really understanding that person? If you don't allow them to completely get their thought out, if you don't allow them to speak what it is, because we're really not, we have to be intentional about being a good listener. This is what's going to help us and constantly bring us in that area to us. We're connecting with one another on a high level. Is just being silent long enough to hear what the other person is saying. Now, one thing about the systematic type, is that they generally, not always, but generally are quiet long enough so you can say what you got to say, right? Now, the driven and the influencers, that's very uncommon for them unless they have a high level of emotional intelligence, right? Now, another thing about the systematic individuals, that they're compassionate and they treasure peaceful relationships. Now, they are the most loyal out of all personality types. They're very, very loyal. Now, the fault in that is this. Sometimes they'll stay in a bad situation too long. They know it's a bad situation, but since they're loyal, they'll stay in it. And whether it's abusive, whether it's not financially sound, whether it goes against who they are as a person, all these kind of things, since they're so loyal, they'll stay in situations, and you as their counselor, you having that type of person as your client or as your student, you're sitting there racking your brain like, why don't you see this? It's not that they don't see it. They see it. It's just that loyalty factor pops in and they have a hard time letting go of that. It's not that they don't know. It's not that they're unaware. It's not that they don't recognize that, you know what, I'm really setting myself on fire to keep someone else warm. Because no one wants to set themselves on fire to keep someone else warm, you know. So it's not that they don't know that they're doing that. It's just that they're loyal. And that particular degree of loyalty brings them to that constant decision making that keeps them in a bad situation. All right. They seek close friendships. They're faithful. Like I said before, they like to find the easy way. Right. They're team players. They're sentimental. They're savers. They're reserved. Extremely supportive. Right. So when we're talking about choice theory, right, and we're looking at particulars in choice theory and understanding some particulars in choice theory, I would ask myself, how is it that I apply all of these particulars, right? So if I'm supposed to be connecting with someone, I'm supposed to be supportive. How do I support the person that is driven? How do I support the person that's an influencer? How do I support the person that's systematic? Because it's one thing to say, hey, I'm here to support you, but this is the thing. What does support look like for that person? What does support look like for that? Because support, it might look completely different from me than it looks to you. Okay, so it's going to be completely different. All right. They need reassurance. They're not always direct at times, right? Sometimes you be wanting them to be very direct. They're not going to be direct all of the times, right? They can be possessive and decisive at times. They may not speak up when they have a strong opinion. All right. They're slower paced. They have a difficulty in saying no. You ever had that person that no matter what, or maybe you are that person when someone asks you something in your mind, you're like, no, but in your mind or verbally, you're like, yeah. Right? You have a hard time with saying no. Why? Because you're naturally supportive person. So you make decisions to help others. But in actuality, what you're doing is you're misconstruing all of your own your own priorities. So when you're trying to get that person to prioritize themselves, they do not, because they prioritize other people's agendas before prioritizing theirs. You say, man, this is a hard nut to crack right here. We're trying to get them to make a decision that's actually going to benefit them. Okay, if you want them to make a decision that's going to benefit them, then it's going to be difficult because why? They have a difficult time with saying no. All right, so it's not that they don't love themselves. It's not that they don't care for themselves. It's any of that. It's just this is their makeup. This is who they are. All right. And then you have your compliance. These individuals right here, they're like your analytical individuals. They ask a lot of questions, right? They're very detail oriented. They're treasure perfection, and their main fear is criticism. In other words, their main fear is making a mistake. They don't want to make a mistake. They never want to make a mistake. So this is the person that will type something up in Microsoft Word, and then they'll spell check, and then they'll send it to someone else to read it over before they send the report in, and they'll do all this. And you're like, dude, come on, send the report in. Like, it's been, they're taking forever to do it, or it's like they go through paralysis through analysis because they really, really, really want to make sure every single thing is perfect. All right. They're analytical. They're genius prone because they question everything. Let me tell you what I know for a fact. Some of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life is when I was 100% sure I was right. I mean, I was 100% sure I was dead on right. And those were the worst decisions I've ever made. Why? Because I didn't ask questions. I wasn't analytical. I didn't ask any questions. I know I'm right. So I just move on and let's just do it. So with that kind of, but this person, the analytical person, they ask a lot of questions. And they so when you're talking to them and they're asking, well, what specifically does that mean? And where are you coming from with that? And, well, why did you ask me that question? And in your mind, you're like, they doubt me. Or why are they asking all these questions? They're asking these questions because that's their personality type. And when you look, what I know for a fact is the more you understand people, the less they frustrate you. Right. So when you understand that all of these personality types are different personality types, it's not that they feel a certain way about you. And I live by the idea that no one is doing anything to you. They're doing something for themselves. So they're not asking questions specifically for you. They're asking questions for themselves. They're not trying to control the conversation because they feel as though you're not capable. They're trying to control it for themselves. The person is super optimistic and that fears rejection. They're not trying to be overly optimistic and charming because of you. They're doing that for themselves. And realizing that every single thing a person does, they're doing it for them and their personality needs, their desire to feel a certain way. All right. So that analytical person, they're a deep thinker. They're serious. They carry out work correctly. They don't like to waste time. Right. They really enjoy having their time managed and governed in a good way. All right. But sometimes they can be moody. They could be socially insecure. They always wondering what other people think about them. They could be legalistic. They overanalyze certain things. They could be kind of slow to start. Why are they slow to start? Because they want to analyze everything, right? And that whole perfectionist thing is because they don't want to be judged. They don't want to be criticized. It's not that they fear social rejection. They just really take pride in their work. They take pride in what they say. They can take pride in anything that has their signature on it. And they may not see the big picture because they're so consumed by what's in front of them. All right. So how do we apply these things, right? How do we connect the dots to some of these things that we just discussed, some of these things we just talked about? And understand that sometimes it's not the system, it's delivery to the recipient. All right. So your system is great. Your axioms are great. The choice theory is great. The reality theories and all of that stuff, they are phenomenal. They work. They are good to go. But the question is, how am I delivering it to my people? Okay. Because if I'm not delivering it to the people in which they can receive it, then what I'm doing is I'm taking a really, really good system and I'm putting it in a box that doesn't fit inside of the door. I'm putting it into a package or an envelope that person is not going to receive. All right. So when it comes to that, if I am an individual that I'm a high I, I'm an influencer, I'm high energy, I'm very optimistic, but I'm dealing with an individual that happens to be analytical. And that analytical individual asks a lot of questions, but I'm not detail oriented. So they want details, but I'm not oriented in the detail zone. What ends up happening is that there's going to be a disconnect because I'm just not an analytical person. So what I need to do is understand and recognize if this person has that appearance of being that analytical individual, and I need to personally make that adjustment. I need to understand that my personality is getting in the way of me influencing this person. My personality is what's causing this perfect, outstanding, phenomenal system to not be utilized correctly. All right. So this is what we tend to do at times when we're doing our best to connect the dots. Okay, so it's you know it, you feel it, you do it, right? So if you understand certain things I know, certain things I feel, certain things I do, but we have a don't in there sometimes. All right, so let's just say I know it, but I don't feel it. I become dispassionate, so I don't come across that well, right? I know it, but I'm not really feeling it. And sometimes you can know a particular thing, and when you're working with someone, you just don't feel it. Like I don't think they want to change. I don't think that they just trying to control the situation. They're asking too many questions. They're just way too optimistic. They're not being realistic with who they really are and what situation they're in. So I know particular things about the philosophies, but I'm really not feeling this person. I don't feel them. So I become dispassionate. And when you're dispassionate with someone, there's a disconnect. You're not going to connect with them, right? But let's just say I know it, but I don't do it. I know that I'm supposed to slow down and talk to this person a certain way, because since I'm an influencer, I have a propensity to talk fast and be animated. But I understand that this person is either systematic or they're analytical, and they don't like when I talk really, really fast like that, and I'm elevated in my voice. So I have to slow down at times when I'm talking to them, because guess what? When I was a hostage negotiator, I had to talk like this all of the time. Every single time I had to talk, I had to slow it down. I had to be intentional. I had to lower my tone, because that actually allows the individual to make a better decision, because I'm slowing it down for them. But let's just say I know it and I just don't do it. I become theoretical. Hey, this is what you do, but I'm not doing that. Right? But let's just say I feel it. I really, really feel that this person can make a change, but I'm not applying the proper techniques. I'm extremely passionate about it. I'm not applying the proper techniques. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, I become unfounded. I'm not solid. No one really trusts me. Well, what if I feel it and I don't do it? It's a difference between knowing I know it. I feel it. I don't know it. I don't know what I'm talking about. But what if I feel it and I don't do it? I become hypocritical. Right? And then you have this thing right here, right? You're doing it, but maybe I missed a step. Maybe I didn't apply the philosophy correctly, and I'm just going with the flow. I do it and I don't know it. I become presumptuous. Or I do it and I don't feel it. I'm mechanical. I'm just going through the motion. I'm reading off the page. Okay, now this is what you should feel. This is, and I become mechanical. All of these things stop you from connecting with people. And when you disconnect with a person that's a driven kind of person, they're going to become opinionated and they're going to become argumentative with you. If you disconnect with an influencer and everything like that, they're just going to glaze over it because they don't want to really conflict with you and everything. So they're going to act like everything is okay when it's not. When you have a confliction with a systematic individual, what they will do is they will shut down and they won't talk to you at all anymore. They become very quiet. Or when you disconnect with an analytical person, they're going to begin to question you. And their questioning you is not on your system. They're going to begin to question you and the validity of what it is that you do. And when we have those disconnects, these are the ways that they show up. And when it comes to dealing with other individuals, right? They show up in these particular ways. So with the axioms, right? Now I sat back and I studied these axioms over the past, few weeks and just really looking at it. I want to talk about the first two axioms of choice theory. All right. Before we go, right. And I love this. The only person whose behavior you control is your own. Okay. So that's the action that we put upon other individuals, but understand that this applies to us, right? The only person whose behavior I control is my own. The question that I will have for you is that where are you on that spectrum? Are you a driven individual? Are you an influencer? Are you systematic? Are you analytical? Because look, whatever it is you are, just how you present yourself to the individuals in which you present yourself to. And guess what? If they have your same personality style and they mesh with you, then you're going to have a great working relationship. But what if they do not? What do? You just say, hey, well, I guess it's just not my client. No, that's your client. You just gotta adjust. But let me tell you something. You cannot control a behavior that you're unaware of. If you're unaware of it, that's a problem. Do I have the influencer style? Am I driven at times? Am I kind of systematic? I kind of like to do same things over and over again. I like I say things like, for everything there's a place, and there's a place for everything. Right? Or do I just say, hey, you know what? Don't mess with my desk. You know what? It might be junky, but I know where everything is. And when someone moves it or something like that and they organize it for me, I'm like, oh, I can't find anything now. Right. So, if I say, hey, well, I'm going to go here and this is going to be a meeting there. And I'm saying, well, what's the purpose of the meeting? And why is it this? And why is it that? That's a driven personality. They want results. Like, why am I even going into this? Understand that if you do not recognize your own behavior, you can't even control it because you don't know what you're controlling. What is your model of behavior and how is it that you're presenting yourself to the individuals that you need to present yourself to? Second is, all we can give or get from other people is information. People are a smorgasbord, a buffet of information on a regular basis. They're constantly telling you exactly who they are all of the time. But guess what? You're constantly telling other people who you are as well. The thing is that, do you speak that language? Because people are, you cannot not communicate. The question is, do I speak the communication language in which people are communicating with me on? Right? If I'm driven, if I'm a very driven person, or something like that, if I'm constantly pushing, I want results, and I'm letting people know, hey, I'm a driven person. I like results. I don't want to be taken advantage of. If I'm constantly optimistic and I'm bubbly and I'm happy to talk to everyone and everything like that, and I don't want to be rejected, I'm a social butterfly and I'm mixing good with everyone, I'm an influencer. And guess what? I don't want to be rejected. I don't pay attention to details, and sometimes I can be over trusting with certain individuals, because I'm giving you that information. Or maybe I'm systematic. Maybe I'm very calm and, I'm kind of, reserved. I like to do the same things over and over. I like predictability in my life. I like to have the same things happen over and over again. And when predictability isn't a part of my life, I get a little bit spun up and I don't deal with diverse situations all of that well. You know what? And if I feel like someone is rushing me, I will shut down and stop talking to them. People are giving you this information. Or maybe I'm analytical. Maybe I'm very direct. Maybe I ask a lot of questions, and maybe I'm very, very fearful of making a mistake because people are constantly giving you this information, and you are constantly giving other people this information. Now, the thing is that I used to have to negotiate with these types of people on a regular basis, and my approach to each one of them was always different. Because I realized that they are in crises. They're the ones that need for me to meet them. They can't meet me where I am, because if they can meet me where I am, then they wouldn't be in crises. They wouldn't be having a problem with making decisions. But I recognize that they are in the crises. They're the ones that's having a situation that needs to be reconciled and dealt with. So therefore, I need to make the adjustment to come to them. I need to recognize exactly who I am, and do I match with this person, and what type of adjustments do I need to make? What reassurances do I need to give them? What kind of environment do I need to provide for them? Understand this. People are not deciding what to do. We're constantly deciding who or what we want to be. listen, when you begin to tell people you're not deciding what to do, you're deciding who you are. Right. And if I understand that I'm constantly not deciding what I'm to do next, I'm deciding who am I going to be? Because when I realize who I am, my decisions take care of themselves. This is who I want to be as a person. So if I want to be a particular kind of person, the decisions that I'm going to make are going to line up with the thing that I say I want to be. Now, the question is this: do you want to be the kind of person that adjusts to other people? Do you want to be the kind of leader that really pushes through and helps people make better decisions? Do you want to be the type of person that takes a system that is founded, that is very effective? Do you want to be the kind of person that when you take that system, it becomes extremely more valuable in your hearts and minds, and really utilize it to better other people's lives? Because if you want to be that person, then we make the proper adjustments. We recognize who we are. We'll see exactly what needs to happen, and we will actually make those things happen. So, where's the connection? Where are we missing it? And if you're wondering who you are, there's a couple of ways we can do this, right? So if I were to ask each and every one of you right now, do you consider yourself an introvert or extrovert? All right. If you're an introvert, type in the chat I. If you're an extrovert, type in the chat E. If you're an extrovert, E. If you're an introvert, I. Let's see where we at. I want to see where we all are. Okay. Eyes. All right. Introverts in the house. All right. Up. Here come the E's. See, the introverts, they actually pay attention. They're like, all right, let me go. The extroverts are kind of like, hey, I'm being extroverted right now. All right, so look. This is how we figure another thing out right here, right? How am I doing on time? Shakira keeping me on time. I got a couple minutes left, right? So this is how you figure this out. Now, whether you're an introvert or extrovert, now the question is, are you people oriented or are you results oriented? Now, if you're people oriented, if you're an introvert and you're people oriented, put IP. If you're an introvert and you're results oriented, put IR. If you're an extrovert and you're people oriented, EP. If you're an extrovert and you're results oriented, ER. Not for emergency room. All right. So IP, IR, or EP, ER. All right. Let's see. There you go. Systematic analytical. Right on, Ron. IE. Extrovert. Okay. EP. Okay, so this is how you figure out who you are based on not having to take an assessment. Okay. Introverts who are people oriented are influencers. They love to be around individuals, so understand that you probably talk fast, you're optimistic, you probably fear rejection, right? Introverts who are introverts who are people oriented are systematic. I misspoke. Introverts who are people oriented are systematic individuals, right? You're introverted, but you're kind of people oriented, so you have a small group of people that you hang around. You're very loyal, you're systematic, you love to do the certain things around certain people you like to do it with, but you will shut down and you don't like confrontation more than likely, right? But if you're an introvert and you're results oriented, you're probably analytical, right? You ask a lot of questions, you can be kind of reserved. You're very direct and to the point, but you can be very analytical. Now, you can understand that there's have to be adjustments making when you're dealing with extroverts, because extroverts are kind of like, hey, let's go, let's do this, let's do that. But you're more introverted, so you're more laid back. So when you're dealing with certain clients at times, they can feel like, okay, well, this person needs to kick it up a little bit. Right? But what if I'm that extrovert? What if I'm that E? If I'm an EP, if I'm an extroverted people person, then I'm a high I. I'm an influencer. I love to talk and be the life of the party and share myself with everyone and do all these kind of things. But what happens is I'm not detail oriented, and you know what? I might miss taking a note, and I might forget a name or two here or there, and you know somebody might feel devalued by me or something like that. If I have multiple clients, I might mix them up from time to time because I'm not detail oriented. So therefore, that might cause a disconnect. But what if I am extrovert that's results oriented? Then I'm highly driven. You know what? I'm very results oriented. I can be competitive at times. I want to win. I don't want anyone taking advantage of me. And I realize that if I am giving that to particular persona to different types of people and they don't receive it, how is it that I make that adjustment? So sometimes in our questioning of individuals and getting to know them is asking that kind of question. Hey, how do you refuel? You know, do you kind of relax alone to refuel, or you like being around your people? That tests, you know, if they're introvert or extrovert. Well, you know what? Are you people oriented? Or are you results oriented? And it gives you a completely different idea on how to deal with certain things. All right. Now, I recognize that we're pressed for time, so I would love to open it. I would love to do two things. I would love to open up for Q&A if we have a couple of questions. And secondly, if you guys are actually interested in a very, very detailed analytical assessment, just shoot myself or Shakira an email. You can email at info@the Betterment Group. Say, hey, I'm interested. I can send you a link to where, you know, you can go ahead and secure an assessment. It'll be a 50-page. It talks about your personality type. It'll give you some specifics on what your behavioral hierarchy is. It also talks about your 12 motivating factors. I wish we had more time together. But yeah, I want to open it up. If we have any questions or comments, let's go. Shoot them to me.
Darryl, quick question. I'm curious about the connection that you may see between the axioms of choice theory and your success as a hostage negotiator. Are there any concepts there that kind of walk over to dealing with someone in a crisis situation like that?
Yes, your reality theory. The way that you guys do the reality, that really is the thing about it, is that the only thing that I would say is that at times people aren't really ready to be realistic. So, but once you get a person down to that realistic mindset, to where you can really begin, because I know you talked about the quality world and your perception world, right? So my quality world is one thing. I got all of these different things that I want to happen in my world. That's my quality world. But my perception world is nowhere near my quality world, right? So we all know this: when your emotion is high, your logic is low. So if I come to them specifically with the reality world, and I begin to have that approach prior to bringing them to the logical point, even though what I'm saying is absolutely true, it's definitive in how I used to negotiate, I had to really justify and validate all of their emotions in order to get them into that, to where I can really apply your reality concept. So the reality concept is very much so extremely useful in the hostage negotiations world. But I have to get them to the point to where that emotion is not that blocker. Because, you know, when you're dealing with emotions, your higher cortex isn't available to you. You know, your brain activity is basically between your hypothalamus and your amygdala, and all of that adrenaline, everything is pumping. And that higher cortex method of thinking is not readily available at a high level. So therefore, me introducing that reality concept, I'm like, basically, it's like chili in a slingshot, man. It ain't good, you know. So, but once I get them to the point to where I'm back down to logic, the reality concept is phenomenal.
Okay, thanks.
Right on. Good question. What else we got, people? Hey, and if you guys are interested, if you could just put in the chat, you can also like I said, myself or Shakira reach out to you if you're interested in actually having an assessment that talks about your particular behavioral style, how you communicate, what individuals you get along best with, and all of that other kind of good stuff. So
Darryl.
Yes. Question? I think you froze, Wendell. Either you froze or you put yourself on mute, buddy.
Mute. There you go. 37 things that you said that I liked. I want to highlight two. Sometimes it's so simple and yet so profound. You're not just hiring a pair of hands, to do something with this door. You're hiring a person. Sure, there's more than just that one thing. And then, of course, these situations, if the other person had the skills to function more effectively, they would be in the situation. So I'm the one that needs to adjust to them and not them to adjust to me in the system. And if I can connect with them, then maybe I can have some influence on them choosing to kind of come in this direction. Thank you for those things.
Yeah, so you were broken up a little bit, Wendell. So basically, what I'm gathering is that when it comes to you making the adjustment, right? When you're making the adjustment, they may be in a bad decision making process. Then you make the adjustment, and then once they get in a good decision process, you got to make another adjustment. Is that what you said? Because I didn't catch everything because you were kind of broken up, buddy.
That's good. Thank you, Darryl. I appreciate it.
No, because let's see. I was trying to hear you, but I don't know if it was my internet connection or yours. When it comes to us trying to adjust to a person, it's a lot of different things that come into place, right? As far as finding out where they are. Okay, so when you get that person, that when you may ask them, what's your biggest fear? And when because people react to certain things, we react to what we love and what we fear. And when a person begins to display to you what fear they particularly have, it generally falls within those particular regions. Someone is mistreating me. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. Someone's rejecting me. I'm not liking how I'm feeling, or I feel insecure. Certain things aren't working for me, or I feel like I'm being criticized. Right. So or underappreciated. So when people go into those particulars, I realize the adjustment that I have to make is usually within those particular 4 domains. And I'll understand, 2 things you like. Okay. Thanks a lot, Ron. I appreciate that. So and understanding those things, we're good to go. Right. All right. So let's take one more question. Who wants to wrap the question time up? If you want to, just make sure you come off mute before you start talking. I see lips moving sometimes. Are we good? All right. So just to be clear. When I believe that Ron was telling me that you were talking about Henry Ford adjustment, right? When he was, the hands quote by Henry Ford and adapting as a provider of care. With that, we get the entire person, and understanding that, when you're dealing with the totality of an individual, there's so many different facets to that person, that trying to pinpoint one particular thing usually doesn't solve the problem, because there's always going to be a problem, but when I begin to look at the person as totality of who they actually are, it gives me a different approach, because now when you connect with a person on their behavioral style and everything like that, it really does give us a certain level of connection to which they open up to us on a whole nother level, because they're like, oh, this person gets me. They don't just get the one problem that I have, they get me as a total person. So right on. All right, are we good to go?
Good to go. Thank you, Darryl, so much. Appreciate your time and sharing with us and the work that you do, and keep us in mind, and we will stay in touch.
Thank you so much.
Darryl a round of virtual applause.
Thank you so much.